definition of cultural capital when you're in the progress-prone column. Cultural capital is not yet accepted in the same categories as capital as defined by Adam Smith and Karl Marx, or human capital as described by Gary Becker, the economist who won the Nobel Prize for it, nor as social capital, which perhaps Francis Fukuyama's book was mentioned at the prior session, but actually I think that Robert Putnam's book, Making Democracy Work, was the most powerful restatement of social capital. Would you raise your hand if any of you are familiar with Robert Putnam's Making Democracy Work? Wow. It is not? There is. You should all take a look at it. What it does is, and it's filled with data, it takes the decision of the Italian government in the 1970s to decentralize governance in Italy. And that led to a great deal of data production. And the data gets fully analyzed in the book and establishes a clear separation between the north of Italy and the south of Italy. And the performance is so different that it sort of documents the argument of those in the north who would like to separate the north from the south. And in the process of seeing these very distinct separate paths, Putnam asked the question, why is it so different? After all, it is supposed to be one society. And he traces back the problems of the South with democracy, social justice, and poverty to the Norman occupation of Italy in the 10th and 11th centuries. The Normans got around to a lot of places, among them Russia, of course. I think I'm correct in saying that the name Russia has Norman origins. The Normans, of course, being Scandinavians, basically Swedes. In the north, there was a spontaneous emergence of communes about the same time as the Normans occupied the south of Italy. And these two developments of a millennium ago started processes of cultural differentiation that he concluded were at the heart of the explanation of the differences between the north and the south in Italy. And he focused on the question of social capital. That is, in his judgment, or in his definition, the extent to which a society encourages association. And the North association comes naturally. The South, it is very, very difficult to find. And the mafia is one expression of that absence of social capital. Have any of you read the book by, let's see, it's called The Moral Basis of a Backward Society by Edward Banfield? It's another very important book for us culturalists. Edward Banfield was a professor at Harvard, and he has an Italian-American wife. He visited a small village in the southern part of Italy in the 1950s, having just come from a study of a Mormon community in Utah in the United States. And he discovered in Utah a honeycomb of organizations for not only for religious purposes, but for social purposes, political purposes, sports, entertainment, just about everything. There was an organization in it. He got to this Italian town, which is called Chiaromonte, although he gives it a fictitious name, Montegrano, and there was no organization whatsoever. The whole society was based on the nuclear family. The radius of identification and trust stopped at the nuclear family. Putnam makes extensive use of Banfield's work, and once again, Banfield is sort of the father, one of the fathers of cultural theory. Those of you who have seen Culture Matters may recall that it is dedicated to him. He died at the time it was published. So that's cultural capital, and let's take a look now at this typology. Let me mention that it is an idealized typology. It's in black and white when the real world is shades of gray. In all societies you will find people who are identifiable as in either column. It's a question of where the center of gravity in the society lies. And you'll find that generally societies tend towards one or the other column. So I'm going to pause now and let you look at it, and then we can talk about it. To my knowledge, this is the most detailed definition of culture that exists. Some people may judge it to be too detailed. As a matter of fact, we have been, in several similar conferences, we've been asked, well, what are the really important ones? And they are all important, but some really are more important than others. And so let me give you my take on which are the ones that are crucial, because they usually echo in several of the others. Religion is probably the most powerful communicator of values and attitudes. It's not the only one. The environment is a source of values and attitudes. History is a source of values and attitudes. For example, that Haiti was started as a French slave colony has left a strong imprint on it. But even stronger is the imprint of African culture, and above all, the voodoo religion. So let me just make a couple of comments about religion. We have a tendency to regard all religions as being equal. This is a reflection of cultural relativism, which has been a dominant feature of the social sciences and above all anthropology for many, many years. I would have to say that were I an anthropological professor sending a student into the field for the first time to do an ethnographic study, that I would encourage that person to adopt cultural relativism, certainly to cleanse him or herself of his or her own cultural predilections, so that he or she can do a conscientious job of depicting, clarifying, and explaining the culture which he or she is studying, without carrying the baggage of his or her own culture. That's fine. But when it comes to measuring the success of cultures in producing good or not so good societies, then the whole question of cultural relativism falls apart, because it's clear from the example that I gave you at the outset, comparing Haiti and Barbados, that some cultures produce more progress towards the goals of the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights than others. And since religion is an important contributor to some of the fundamental value bases of a culture, religious relativism simply does not work for our purposes. The question of the ability to influence one's destiny is often linked to religion.